sometimes in the history of God's interaction with his people, things of such profound significance happen that at the time it's not even realized it's what's going on, or the full power of it, or the full significance of it, or the full understanding of it. God brings a people out of Egypt. And he says this is Exodus 25, verse 8. He says, "And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell in their midst. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell in their midst." And it's this desire for God and humans to dwell together that is the whole vision of it. It's not just, hey, let me take you out of slavery. It's not just, let me give you a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey. It's like the whole goal is reaching as full as we can to God and humans dwelling together. That's the goal, right? That's the purpose. And when this is given, this commandment is given, most of Israel didn't get it, right? It's kind of like, okay, that's nice, that's beautiful. Yes, we're excited for a time. We're going to contribute. We're going to contribute so much to this sanctuary that eventually Moses is going to have to say to the people, hey, enough, stop bringing stuff. There's an excitement about it, but it's like probably a surface level excitement, because then what? We lose the vision of God and mankind dwelling together, and we start worrying about, how tired we are of the manna, or how there's not enough water, or where is this promised land you promised us, Moses, right? And we're tired of the desert. Sometimes we get tired of the desert. And we get tired of the desert because we forgot the vision. The vision is not complicated. When I was working on my Master's of Divinity, and I was taking courses in how to grow a congregation and leadership and things like that, and they talked about having a mission statement for your congregation. And I don't want to knock that. I just say, let's be careful with that. I think every congregation should have the same mission statement. To as much as possible have humans meet God and God meet humans, right? How do we make a sanctuary where God can dwell? Because this is his heart's desire. We see it all from Genesis through Revelation. This is God's desire for him to dwell in our midst. Zechariah chapter 2, starting at verse 10. "Shout and be glad, daughter of Zion, for I am coming, and I will live among you, declares the Lord. Many nations will be joined with the Lord," right? This is not just a vision for Israel. This is a vision for the world. Many nations will be joined with the Lord in that day and will become my people. Right? Little side item, by the way. This is why it's very important that we don't give into a theology that says all believers are Israel, or all believers become Jewish, or that if you're not Jewish, you think you have to be Jewish, right? It's actually diminishing the vision. The vision is that all nations, be a part of that, be excited about that, right? Whether people call you Jewish or Gentile or whatever, be excited about one thing, and that is the testimony that you are a part of what God is doing on earth. Many nations will be joined with the Lord in that day and will become my people. Is that promise good enough for you, right? Is that promise, I am part of the people of God, whether it's the revival of Israel or the bringing in of the nations. On a certain level, it doesn't matter other than I am fulfilling prophecy, or God is fulfilling prophecy in me. Many nations will be joined with the Lord in that day and will become my people. I will live among you. And you will know that the Lord Almighty has sent me to you. And this is of such profound significance, right? There is nothing like this in the world. First of all, there's no other religion, no other spirituality that understands God like we do. God is not a part of nature. He is not the sun god or the moon god or the river god. He's not even just a combination of a whole bunch of those kind of things. I am that I am, right? He's above it all. And all things are through him. All things are come about because of him. He is the first cause of all things. He's beyond time. He's beyond matter. He's beyond space. And yet somehow this God who's beyond time, matter, and space is a personal God. And for some reason, this powerful, infinite being, it's like my main objective here is I want to dwell with you. Right? I want you to understand the significance of this. I want to dwell with you. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Zion, for I am coming and I will dwell in your midst. And many nations will come and will join themselves to the Lord in that day and will become my people. And this is really exciting to God. Right? Do you see that? God is really excited about this. When you say yes to God, God gets really excited about that. That's awesome. This is his heart. Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in their midst. I'm coming and I will dwell in you. And when you say yes, this makes God's heart really happy. You have to understand the significance of this and not get dragged down by the fact that you've slipped up and you messed up and you sinned. And how could God accept me? And I can't get out of my head this idea that God is somehow like my nasty, not my dad, but I'm just speaking on behalf of others who maybe didn't have a great earthly father. God is somehow like that dad who was so hard to please. And I just can't get past these things. And I have this vision of God like he's ready to strike me and he wants to be displeased with me. And God's heart is happy when bad things happen to me. Get rid of that. Get rid of that picture. God's heart is happy when you say yes to his plan. It is my desire that there be a sanctuary where you and I dwell together. And it just dawned on me, hey, this is the Psalms that God led me to this morning. And this is the first song that God led Janelle to this morning. Do you see? It's all coming together. It wasn't on purpose. It just came to me now. Psalm 42, right? As a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and appear before God? Right? And the psalmist, what's going on in that psalm, Psalm 42? For some reason, that psalmist is being taken away from the temple. Whether it's exile or who knows what's going on. I call out to you from Mount Mizar, right? And we say deep calls to deep. Oh, that means the deep in me is calling out to the deep of God. That's not what it means, right? All your waves and your breakers have come over me. Means just my life is just being inundated by the things of the world. I'm being driven from the presence of God. And I'm longing to return into Jerusalem and to be with God and to appear with God. And some commentators will say, well, the pointing maybe is a little off there. Maybe it doesn't mean be seen by God. Maybe it should mean to see God. Right? And those who put in the vowel pointings later on, they were a little iffy about that. See God? Let's repoint that. Appear before God. That sits better with our theology. I don't know. There are times where it talks about seeing God. I want to see God. I'm longing, I'm thirsting for the temple experience. I'm longing and thirsting to be in the courts of God. Or Psalm 84, right? Even the sparrow has found a place for herself and for her young there by your altar. It's almost like the psalmist is jealous of the bird because the bird gets to live there. Right? Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. Get the vision back, and it's not a complicated vision. The primary vision of your life and my life is not the career God is calling us to or the ministry God is calling us to, but for there to be a sanctuary in which we and God dwell together. That's it. A place where we dwell together. That's the whole Yeshua project right there. Let me make a sanctuary. Who's speaking now? God is speaking. God's going to make the sanctuary. Isn't that awesome, right? So we started out in Exodus 25:8. Let them make me a sanctuary. All right. We're going to make God a sanctuary. His design. Right? His design, His order of events. But we do the work. We built the altar, and we built the tent, and we built the furnishings and the menorah, and right? We do the work, and the priests slay the sacrifices, and the priests sprinkle the blood, and God fills. And God fills, right? And then Solomon's temple, same thing, right? Solomon, with the help of the king of Tyre, right? They put it together. It's this beautiful, glorious thing, powerful. And you don't have one menorah, now you have 10. And you don't have a tent, now you have a building. It's overlaid in gold. And the Ark of the Covenant is there with the 10 words that God gave to Moses. And the priests are there. And Solomon's lifting up a prayer. And God's heart is satisfied. And He comes and He dwells in that place to such an extent that the priests couldn't even enter in because of the glory of the cloud. This is God's desire. And God was pleased that day. And He was less pleased with the building than He was with the heart, right? God was not impressed by the gold. He made it all. God was blessed by the heart. These people are crying out to me with genuine hearts. They want to be with me. They understand the vision. They understand the call. They want to be with me. And they're seeking after me. And man, I'm going to fill this place. The cloud of the Lord was there. And then we lost the vision. And Solomon slept with foreign wives and worshipped foreign gods and led Israel astray. And then all of a sudden Torah becomes not this, let them make me a sanctuary that I can dwell in their midst. But all of a sudden Torah becomes this judgment. If you walk away from me, you're going to lose in battle. If you walk away from me, your crops are not going to grow. The rains are not going to fall. If you go away, all of a sudden Torah now is not about seeking God, but it's about this judgment for waywardness. It was forgotten. The vision was forgotten. God sent prophets, some of whom were killed and stoned and sawed in half. And God said, I'll send my son. For the purpose of what? Restoring the vision, not just the knowledge of it, not just, oh, I understand what God wants now, but actually making it happen. To take away all of that condemnation, all of that walking away, all of that idolatry, all of that sleeping with foreign women and worshiping foreign gods and just wiping it away. Getting a people for himself that can fulfill the prophecy that says, I will dwell among them. And many nations will join themselves to the Lord in that day and will become my people. You will be my people and I will be your God. And every time that you and I complain about the other things, or seek after the other things, or search for the other things, there's just that little bit of forgetting the vision. And not just the vision, but that the vision has been fulfilled. And not just that there should be a sanctuary, but that God made a sanctuary. And that sanctuary is now us. You know, I've said that many times. I know. But it's us. And sometimes it's a singular you. Sometimes it's a plural you. Ephesians chapter 2, Paul is writing to Gentiles here, to the Ephesians. He says, consequently, Ephesians 2:19, consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people, and also members of his household, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus, Yeshua, himself as the chief cornerstone. In him the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. And in him you two are being built together to become a dwelling place in which God lives by his Spirit. Paul is saying God lives where Jew and Gentile come together in Messiah. That's God's dwelling place. I get a little, I don't want to use too strong the language here. I'm not crazy about all of this focus on the rebuilding of the third temple in Jerusalem. Oh, we found the red heifer. Aren't you excited? I'm not excited about the red heifer. I'm not excited about a third temple. I don't know if there will be a third temple in Jerusalem or not. Some people point to, I think, Thessalonians and say, oh, that means there will be. But it's not the focus, right? Anything like that is anticlimactic. I'm excited about Jews and Gentiles, men and women, old and young, coming together to be a holy temple in the Lord. It says this, and take this seriously, in him you two are being built together to become a dwelling place in which God lives by his Spirit. Being built together. Right? Not building ourselves together, but being built together. God doing the work through his Son. You are being built into God's dwelling place. Or as 1 Peter says, you are living stones, right? You are the stones of the temple. You are being built together. God is putting you together. God is building the sanctuary. And God forbid that those who are coming together as the dwelling place of God should lose the vision. I'm dealing with this every week on social media. Maybe I spend too much time on social media, I don't know. Every week I see people who are losing the vision. Genuine believers losing the vision. And they think somehow it's all about becoming Torah observant. It's not all about becoming Torah observant. They think somehow it's all about understanding the proper way to say God's divine name. It's not about the proper way to say God's divine name. They think it's all about voting and supporting and seeing the right political leader as our hero. It's not about that. It's about what God is doing through Yeshua and building us together as a dwelling place. Second Corinthians chapter 3. Paul is struggling in 2 Corinthians. Right? He's dealing with competition. People who are coming in with a false gospel. And he's like, why are you guys like following their false teaching instead of the genuine gospel that I delivered to you? Chapter 3, are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Do I have to tell you how I'm a genuine apostle? Do I have to commend myself to you? Or do we need, like some people, letters of recommendation to you or from you? Right? What if I had a letter from Peter? Would that do? What do you need in order to take the words I'm speaking seriously? How can these things be needed when you yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone? You show that you are a letter from Christ, from Messiah. You are the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. God dwelling in your midst, God changing your life, God changing your heart. God, this is what our ministry was about. This is the fruit of it. What else do you need? What else are you getting off on? What else is distracting you? Oh, you have to be more Jewish. Is that what you think? What about what happened on your heart? Such confidence we have through Christ before God. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. He has made us competent as ministers of a new covenant. All right. Not of the letter, but of the Spirit, for the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. A new covenant, it says it. Some of us want to hang on to the old. Even if theologically we have this right, we want to hang on to the old way of doing things. The new way of doing things is you are the temple. The new way of doing things is your life is transformed. The new way of doing things is God is building you together in Messiah, Yeshua. This is a new thing. Is it completely unrelated to the old? Of course not. Is it a fulfillment of the old? Of course. Is it deeply connected to the old? Of course. Is it still somehow powerful enough to consider it brand new? Absolutely. Now, if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, came with glory, so that the Israelites could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of its glory, transitory though it was, will not the ministry of the Spirit be even more glorious? Okay, this is powerful. This is important. This is not just a talk about how what we have in Messiah is better. This is, hey, let's start living this betterness, right? If the ministry that brought death, Moses comes down from the mountain with the 10 words, the 10 commandments. He sees the golden calf. He's furious. He breaks those tablets. And 3,000 die that day. the day that Moses comes down the mountain with the 10 words, 3,000 die because of sin. The ministry that brought death was engraved in letters on stone, but still it came with glory. Moses would spend time in God's presence. He would have, his face would shine. And he would scare Israel, the Israelites. He'd have to put a veil over his face. There was still glory in the ministry of Moses, powerful glory as a matter of fact, but it was transitory because that glory would fade. But even if it was transitory, and even if it brought death, it still had glory. How much more than the glory of the Spirit? Are we living in the glory of the Spirit? See, this is what I'm trying to get. I understand that many of us, you've heard me speak about this kind of stuff before. And so I realize I'm not speaking a lot of new stuff to a lot of people. But I want us to challenge ourselves. Am I living in the fact that I am now under the ministry of the Spirit that has greater glory and that has made me a dwelling place for God? Will not the ministry of the Spirit be even more glorious if the ministry that brought condemnation, the Torah, giving of the Torah, was glorious? How much more glorious is the ministry that brings righteousness? Are we living in the more glorious? Or are we complaining because we've lost the vision and our stomachs are hungry? Are we living in the power of the more glorious? John 16:7, another verse I go to often, forgive me. But Yeshua tells them, it's to your advantage that I go away. Because unless I go away, the Comforter, the Paraclete, the Spirit won't come. But if I go, I will send him to you. It's better that I go away, that you can have the Spirit. We are living in the better. We are living in the more glorious. The book of Hebrews, as I've often said, about 8 times, says it's better, better, better. Better covenant, better sacrifice, better priesthood, better promise. Are we living in the better? Or have we lost the vision and our stomachs are hungry and we miss what we used to have? Move on into the better. Spend time with the Lord, enjoying the better, because the better is his dwelling with us. Spend time in services worshiping, because the better is his dwelling with us. The more glorious is his dwelling with us. The better ministry is that the Spirit is in our midst. The better is that it doesn't matter if you came from the nations or you came from Israel. You are being built together as a dwelling place for God. This is awesome. We cannot miss the profundity. We cannot miss the profound nature of this message. Because as soon as we miss that this is profound, wow, I get to dwell with God. With the eternal, omnipotent, beyond time, beyond space, God, I get to dwell with him. His desire is to dwell with me. I make his heart glad when I say yes to that vision. And I fail to think that that is a privilege. And I fail to be in awe of the fact that as bad as my past was, there's a new ministry that makes me righteous. And that the hammer of Torah saying you did this wrong and that wrong and that wrong, all that condemnation is gone in the Son. And I fail to grab a hold of the profound nature of what God has called me to. I become a complainer just like Israel in the wilderness. I need more water, I need more food, tired of this manna. Do you not understand? I've called you to dwell with me. I've called you to interact with me. And when you get that, it says this, for what was glorious, right? The ministry of the Torah, the ministry of the written law, what was glorious has no glory now in comparison with the surpassing glory. All right? Here's an analogy I brought up before. It's like, turn off all the lights, shine a flashlight. Wow, Josh, that's pretty bright. But on a sunny day, you take that out into a field, it's like, is it even on? You can't tell anymore. Because it's been surpassed in glory by the sun. We've got to get that vision. right? The glory of the old has been surpassed by the glory of the new. And sometimes our desire to make the gospel more palatable to Jewish souls, which is a noble thing, but sometimes we've watered it down to make it seem like there's not that much different. No, it's profoundly different. They need to see it, and they need to know this is profoundly different. And the person delivering is telling me it's profoundly better. Because if it's not profoundly different, what motive do I have? What motivation do I have for accepting that which is going to cause me to be rejected by my family? I might as well just go to the normal synagogue if it's not that much different. No, it's different. It's better. The glory of the new surpasses the glory of the old to such an extent we don't even know if the flashlight's on anymore. And if what was transitory came with glory, how much greater is the glory of that which lasts? Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold. We are not like Moses, who would put a veil over his face to prevent the Israelites from seeing the end of what was passing away. But their minds were made dull, for to this day the same veil remains when the old covenant is read. It has not been removed, because only in Christ, only in Messiah is it taken away. Even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil covers their hearts. But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. We are being transformed into his image, the mirror. Right? The mirror. You look at the mirror. You look at the image of the Messiah, and God says, I'm going to make you like that. And you're being transformed from the inside out by this ministry of the Spirit, by this power of the Spirit, by the glory of the new covenant, by the glory of what the Lord has done. And you don't forget the profound nature that the timeless, eternal, beyond all creation God says, my heart's desire is to dwell with these people that I made, to redeem them from their sins, to dust them off, to cleanse them, transform them from the inside out, and for us to have sweet, sweet fellowship together. That's his desire. That's his desire for you. And then it's his desire that you bring others in as well, right? The ministry of reconciliation that Paul talks about a couple chapters later. The ministry of reconciliation. You cannot have that ministry. You cannot win people to the Lord properly if you're not experiencing it yourself. I'm reconciled to God, not through my works, not through my acts. But in this new ministry that transforms me, makes me more like him, that reconciles me to God, that gives me sweet fellowship, so that his heart's desire to dwell with me is fulfilled, and my heart's desire to dwell with him is fulfilled as I say yes to his reconciliation project through Yeshua. Reconcile me to yourself, O Lord, not just to avoid your wrath, but to enjoy your sweet fellowship, and then to bring as many as possible into that sweet fellowship. God, you're so good. And your plan is so good. It's so right and so perfect. Lord, my friends listening to me, I pray that none of them would ever forget, and that I would never forget the profound nature of what you have called us to in Messiah. And that you no longer say to us, hey, make me a sanctuary. But you said, in Messiah, I'm making you a sanctuary. Come and dwell. Come and rest. God is no longer saying, choose from amongst the children of Aaron the one who will be high priest. God says, you know what? I'll be your high priest in Yeshua. God is no longer saying, bring me the perfect, blameless sacrifice. God says, you know what? I will not only bring, I will be the perfect sacrifice. This is how dear this plan is to me. I will do it. I will do it. I will be the high priest. I will be the sacrifice. I will build the sanctuary. I will invite you in. You say yes and come enjoy sweet fellowship.